Oh, there you are, YouTube.
23.
All right, October 23rd. What are we watching? You want to pick that one? The one with all the skulls on it?
Yep. No, this one.
Skull and crossbones.
You're good. Tremors.
Tremors. Whoa, I forgot this was
I
in
have
there.
not seen that since I was a kid.
Man, it's been so long for me too. I fully forgot that was even in there.
Tremors, man. I feel like I don't remember how fun that was. That was such a fun movie. I mean, I was so young when I first saw this, and I don't think I've seen it in full since, 90, 91, when it first hit VHS. And I saw it at my neighbor's house. I know I brought them up a lot. They were sort of my introduction into horror, which is weird because I think they were just a strong introduction to movies for me. My parents were also, but my neighbors, and they're not like spooky people or anything, but most of my horror background comes from them, like when it really started for me. Like when it comes to the Blob remake, the Monster Squad, Killer Clowns, Arachnophobia, and this. They showed me all of that. So, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is when I first saw this, I don't know if I had enough film. I was what, 7 or something. How old was I? 95, 6. I don't think I was well versed enough in movies to know how fun this was when compared to other movies. I just don't, maybe I wasn't picking up on mood, on tone, on attitudes and things like that. But what I really walked away from, I was thinking about this and Arachnophobia and sort of comparing them as I was watching it. Arachnophobia we watched earlier this month. Have a review for that. Feel free to check it out. But in that movie, you have people who are maybe not... It's like they're acting in two different movies. Like John Goodman is in a completely different movie than Jeff Daniels, it seems. Jeff Daniels taking the material very seriously and a little more dry versus what John Goodman's doing, where this movie, everybody knows the movie they're in and they're having a blast. It is, and you're having a blast, and Kevin Bacon's energy is so good. Fred Ward is so good in it. Everybody, I remember being a kid, I was always drawn to Reba McEntire and the dad from Family Ties, the ones with all the guns. They were my favorite characters. I especially love that scene in the basement, and all that shooting and everything. That was always a fun part for me when I was a kid. But I feel like now I'm more drawn to Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward. But as a little kid, I just wasn't maybe picking up on their humor or how cool they were and all of that. But definitely picked up on it as an adult, and because I don't think I've seen this since being very little. Maybe I did watch it again in high school or college, if maybe in parts or something, I don't know, but this time around, they were the standouts to me. They were who I enjoyed, and also that tractor tire scene, I really when that scene popped up on screen, I had all these additional memories pop up. I was like, oh, I remember loving that part when I was a kid. That was really cool. The guy's looking for high ground, and then kind of gets sucked between or through the center of the tractor tire like a donut. Yeah, it was just really cool to revisit this one. And the score, as a kid, I didn't notice this, but the score is a lot, more fun and upbeat also. So that adds to the movie. Just feels like another good introduction to horror for kids. This makes more sense to me, because Arachnophobia, I don't even know if my kids would actually be that into it, because there's a lot of dry characters in it. Here, everybody is pretty entertaining, so I could see this movie being a great introduction to horror for my kids. That's just something me and my wife think about a lot. What should their first horror film be? We'll show them some lighter fare probably early on, like, you know, Hocus Pocus or whatever, but I was introduced to horror very young, but for some reason I feel reluctant to do that with my kids. I don't know why. I don't feel like it affected me negatively. The only thing I was like afraid of at night when I was going to bed were aliens, you know. So what really wasn't the horror films or anything. I was more afraid of being abducted by aliens every night. That's where my fears were. Man, the 90s. The 90s and aliens and alien abductions, that was wild. They were everywhere. But yeah, this movie was a lot of fun. It kind of makes me want to watch the sequels, because I haven't seen any of the sequels. And then they made a movie where Kevin Bacon returned to the franchise. I think it was a TV movie. I'd be interested in seeing that too. Like, I'm sure they're not all good. I think the only person who's in all of it is the Family Ties father from that sitcom. But I don't think he's in the TV movie that came out a couple years ago, with the one with Kevin Bacon in it. I don't think he's in it, in that one. But I'm pretty sure he did all those other subsequent films. I just remember seeing, you know, at the video store. But I don't know, I just felt like this was a blast. This was really exciting to watch all of this and, you know, find the things I remembered from watching it when I was a little kid. And it's good. It is good. It's sad that Kevin Bacon, I know he's come around to it, obviously, but he had a bad relationship with this movie just because he, you know, thought it, like, delegitimized him as an actor a little bit. So he didn't really acknowledge it, but it seems like he's come around to it, knows how cool it is. And that's another thing. Like, I guess it was a flop and he felt bad about that, but I'm kind of surprised because I feel like everybody knows about the movie. So, like, I wouldn't even, like, call it a cult classic, because I just feel like everybody knows it and loves it. It must just been a weird month, maybe, when it was released in theaters. I don't know. I want to look into that, because it doesn't feel like a cult classic. It just feels like a classic. You know, like Twister, you know, but it didn't do Twister numbers. But for some reason, I feel like it is in the public consciousness in a pretty substantial way. It doesn't feel like you're special if you know that movie, because I feel like everybody knows Tremors. So I don't know, it's surprising to me that it was a failure, because it feels ubiquitous with the culture. It doesn't, you just don't know anybody who hasn't seen it. Maybe I'll learn in the comments, but maybe I was just in a unique position where I was around it. But, you know, my wife even watched it as a kid. She said it was like one of the few horror films, like, her parents were pretty restrictive, but it was one of the few horror films she was allowed to watch as a kid. Like, her, you know, dad showed it to her. It was like that, I don't know, the Fly, oddly. She was allowed to watch that one, and she was like, I do not know why. Based on everything my parents would not let me watch, they let her watch the Fly. She was always, like, mystified by that. Like, why on earth did they let me watch that one? But yeah, I don't know. Back to Tremors. It's so good. If you haven't seen it in a while, revisit it. It is so much fun, and the practical effects are so great. It's just a fantastic movie. Anyway, I'm just praising it over and over and over again, so I might as well end this. Have you seen it? What do you think of it? And perhaps let me know in the comments below. Perhaps I'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.